Welcome to the Preparing for Work series, Video 6. This section will help you with choosing and contacting references for when you're job searching. There are three components that you will use in this section to help learn about and assemble your own list of references. This video, consider it a tutorial, and it'll help to explain the process, as well as help to navigate you to both the PowerPoint and the reference booklet, both of which will be used together while completing this section on references. Let's take a moment and access the PowerPoint presentation and the reference booklet available online. To access these, open your web browser and search for Pembina Trail School Division. On the main page for Pembina Trail School Division, under the heading of What We Offer, select Career and Community. On the left-hand navigation pane, select Additional Resources. This webpage contains the entire Preparing for Work series. We'll scroll down and look for section number 6, Choosing and Listing References. To continue on with this video, you will need to open the PowerPoint by selecting it, clicking on it, and as well the reference booklet by clicking on it. Please notice the red warning at the beginning of the document. It is important to save this document to your device immediately upon opening it, and once saved, then open that document and begin working on it. So let's save this document now. In my case, I'm going to save it to my desktop and make sure that it has a name that I'm going to recognize. I'm saving it to the desktop and calling it Reference Booklet. I'll recognize it as a PDF file on my desktop. Reference Booklet. Now I'll open that up, and this will be the document that I will use to complete my work in. The reason why is this document contains, further on, it contains fillable fields, which allows me to not print the document and instead input my references or any other information directly into the document. After I've completed my work, I'll make sure that I save the document again. Now let's get back to the video. So I'll just suspend this document along with the PowerPoint so I can carry on with the video. At this point, the video you're watching is now going to bounce back and forth between the PowerPoint that you have open and the reference booklet that you as well have opened and saved. So feel free to pause this video at any point and go and check out some of the information on the slides. I'm going to speak to that now, and I'm also going to try to draw some attention back to the reference booklet to help you to get ready to create your own set of references. What is a reference and why is it so important? A reference is a person that employers can contact to simply learn more information about you, to learn more about your character, your work ethic, or other abilities. Job searching can be very competitive. You always want to do anything you can to help yourself stand out from the crowd, to stand out from the other applicants. And one great way to do that is to make sure you have stellar references, people that can speak very positively about your abilities. Okay, so let's bounce out of this PowerPoint presentation and let's move over to the reference booklet here that you as well should have open on your desktop. Let's talk just a little bit about process here. And let's pretend, so you've applied for a job and you got a call and you've been granted an interview. Really important for you to know that to that interview that you will bring extra copies of your resume and the list of references that we're going to create here in a little bit. Okay? Don't make assumptions that because you applied online and provided your resume that you don't need to bring any copies of that. Be prepared. It looks good on you. And don't forget, any employer who is seriously considering hiring you, they are likely going to call your references to learn about you. So that, I guess, takes us to our first step, which is really about selecting the best references. In your reference booklet is a list of tips to help you select the best references. Pause this video now and read through these 5 tips to become familiar. Come back to the video when you're finished. Now that you've read through the tips on selecting good references, let's talk a little bit about next steps. Let's pretend you've already determined who you think is going to best represent you as a reference, and you've reached out to them and they've agreed to support you with that. What would your next steps look like? Well, important to have a conversation with each of those references to follow up. Provide them a copy whenever possible of your resume that you're going to be giving employers. Share with them where you plan on applying and what positions that you're planning on applying for. Whenever possible, talk with them about the specific skills you think are relevant to that job and what you're hoping that they're going to say about you if contacted. Share with them why you think you're a good fit for that role. And finally, ask them what they're going to say about you. And if it's not good, well, then just thank them and choose someone else. It's common for people to wonder, like, how do I give my list of references and how should I format it as a document? Let's look at 5 tips here right now about that. Your resume should include the following sentence at the bottom. One sentence stating that references are available upon request. Your list of references should look the same as all other headings on your resume. You'll want to use the same format as your resume, so that just means the same font type and size. You'll want to make sure that you include your contact information the same way. Have it present the same way as it's listed on your resume. And lastly, for your references, you may choose to list references under headings such as professional or a character or personal reference. Let's bounce back to the PowerPoint now so I can help you to understand the difference between the two. The 2 most common types of references that people use are a character or personal reference, which is really someone who can vouch for your personal character or personality. This is likely going to be somebody that you know outside of a work environment. It's not a relative or a social friend. It would be more like a teacher or a coach or a club leader. A professional reference, however, is someone who will vouch for your professional work ethic and experience. For example, someone who has seen you in action at work before, like a former supervisor, or someone that maybe you volunteered for. One way to think about the selection process of your references would be the following. What skills does the job require that I'm applying for? And what abilities do I have that match that job? And who do I know that can speak about my abilities to an employer? These would be the people that ultimately you might want to consider selecting to act as your references. Your ideal reference is someone that's really going to be able to speak specifically about your abilities, your strengths, and they're going to be able to provide examples of the kind of work you've done or about your character. You'll want to consider selecting people who know you and your work quite well, as opposed to picking people that you consider to have important job titles. We all have varied amounts of work experience. And for first-time job seekers, well, they're typically not able to provide a professional reference because they simply haven't worked before. If this is the case, you're simply going to provide personal references, people that can speak about your character and your personality. Remember that in general, really anyone that can vouch for your work ethic, your reliability, and your ability to achieve in an employment or academic setting can give you a personal reference. And don't forget, babysitting, paper routes, snow removal, or any summer yard maintenance experience, they're all examples of previous work. In your PowerPoint presentation, you'll find a video link to a YouTube video titled How to Choose Your Job Reference Wisely. Pause this video now and click on that link and watch that YouTube video. Resume this video when you're finished. Based on your learning from these videos, from the PowerPoint and your reference booklet, it's time for you to consider 3 people that you plan to ask to be your reference. If they meet the criteria for a good reference, it'll be important for you to contact them to ask permission and to ask for their personal information to complete the reference contact information form in your reference booklet. In your reference booklet, it will ask you to begin by identifying the 3 people. Simply input that in place in each of the fields and move on to also input the contact information for each of those references. When you have them on the phone to ask them permission to act as a reference, that's the ideal time to gather their contact information. Now that you've gathered the contact information for each of your 3 references, use the checklist on the next page in your reference booklet to make sure you haven't skipped any important steps to remember. Your last step now will be to type out your references on a separate sheet of paper. In your reference booklet, use the next 2 pages for examples of what a reference page might look like. The first of the 2 pages will guide you and highlight some of the heading and formatting pieces to consider. The last page is just an exemplar of what a finished product might look like. You are now ready to type out your own list of references. Good luck, and best of luck with job searching.